What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you, this time on Yahoo, where we will be doing a 12-team half PPR mock, and we will be picking 11th overall. Should be pretty interesting. And before we get into it, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there, and let us hear it in the comment section. What are your thoughts on these selections, on the teams we put together, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. And lastly, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide and get yourself a copy now. Everything you can want at a great value, from top 150 overall player rankings in standard and PPR formats to individual player bios, tiers, projections, along with general fantasy advice. All the details in the description, so make sure to check it out now. But with that being said, let's take a look at what has taken place so far. 4 picks are in the book: Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp, Christian McCaffrey, and now Dalvin Cook. So this is half PPR scoring. Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, they finished in that order last season in terms of the top 2 running backs. I think Taylor has a decent chance of repeating as 1 or 2, but Austin Eckler, we'll see. If Christian McCaffrey is fully healthy, then I think that he should be up for consideration. But let's quickly take a look at what's available to us here, because we are on the clock, and I think we still have some really good options. I'm looking at a guy in DeAndre Swift that I think would be a very nice start. So let's nab him here, half PPR. I have him as a potential breakout this season, and I definitely could see him being like a Austin Eckler light type of guy. And since this is, even though only half PPR, a PPR format nonetheless, I'm going to be looking at pass catching running backs. And I've said it before, I'm very high on Aaron Jones. Whether it's him, Alvin Kamara, I think they're both 2 excellent choices. I'm going to go with Aaron Jones because, again, with Kamara, maybe not quite as certain whether he's going to be suspended or not. I don't think he will because of his Pro Bowl incident, but Aaron Jones right now, probably the safer selection, and without Devontae Adams, I think he's going to see a whole lot of targets. But let's take a look at what's taken place so far, because this draft is moving by fast. So again, just to recap the first 3 picks: Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry. Okay, no real issues with that. I would have Christian McCaffrey in there because, I mean, assuming he plays a full season, it's tough to imagine him being outside of the top 3 running backs. Then Cooper Kupp, again, I'd have McCaffrey. I've had Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris above Cooper Kupp. Then you see McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and Najee Harris in that order, followed by 2 wide receivers: Jefferson, Jamar Chase. So no issues there. Justin Jefferson would be my number 2 guy. Jamar Chase, I'd probably have Devontae Adams above him, Stephon Diggs as well. But again, you can't fault whoever's making that selection too much. Chase, good chance to be a top 5 wide receiver. Then a run on a running backs, the last 3 picks: Mixon, DeAndre Swift by us, and Nick Chubb. I wouldn't have selected Nick Chubb that early. Again, it's only half PPR, but Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Leonard Fournette, Saquon Barkley, I think are all much better options. Then Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones by us, followed by Stephon Diggs, Javonte Williams, way too early. Again, that's going to be a running back by committee in Denver. Give me Alvin Kamara. Give me Leonard Fournette. Give me Saquon Barkley. Let's see what other running backs are still on the board. Probably give me Ezekiel Elliott as well, honestly. Give me David Montgomery above Javonte Williams. So I really don't like that pick. Then CeeDee Lamb, Kamara, great value there. Leonard Fournette, Deebo Samuel, a little bit early for me, especially if Trey Lance is the quarterback for the majority of the season. I think that's going to hurt a lot of the top options in San Francisco. Then go the 2 tight ends: Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce. I would have liked to see Travis Kelce go first. I have him as my tight end 1 across all formats. Then Mike Evans. I like the value on Mike Evans, especially if something happens with Chris Godwin and he's not 100% ready to kick off the season. Then David Montgomery and Saquon Barkley. I really like the start the Team 1 has had. 3 top-notch running backs Saquon Barkley, I think, is going to bounce back. The fact he lasted until the third round is egregious, in my opinion. I think he has a great chance to return to being a top 10 running back. David Montgomery, I think he's just going to see a lot of volume. I have him as a top 15 running back. Then in the third round, Barkley, like we said, Antonio Gibson. I'm kind of out on Antonio Gibson. I think there might be kind of a running back by committee there with Brian Robinson. And based on what Ron Rivera has said about like a 1-2 punch, Tyreek Hill, then James Conner, Keenan Allen. Love the value on Keenan Allen. Then Josh Allen, and now Breece Hall. I really don't like Breece Hall being selected. Another guy that I think people are just kind of hyping up. I'd much rather have Ezekiel Elliott, personally, or even like a Travis Etienne. So that's just me. Looking at these other running backs, I mentioned it before, Zeke, Travis Etienne. I think Etienne is ranked way, way too low. I'd have him higher. Honestly, I'd even consider taking him above Zeke. If no James Robinson, I think Travis Etienne can be an absolute steal. But hey, we're on the clock right now, and we could go wide receiver here. And in terms of a wide receiver that I like to break out, I think Michael Pittman is a good choice. You know, I'm hoping that guys that I really like later on, like an Allen Robinson or Rashad Bateman, will be there for me a round later. So I'm going Michael Pittman here as my wide receiver 1. And then let's see what happens here with this next pick. So Zeke, Darren Waller. I could go wide receiver again, but I kind of want to go with that potential running back breakout and continue that pass-catching running back PPR type of niche with Swift, Aaron Jones, and now Travis Etienne. If it wasn't Etienne here, I'd probably go with Marquise Brown or Allen Robinson, but I kind of made my mind up. I'm going to Etienne. I really like his potential breakout this season. I think he's going to see a lot of volume as a rusher and then as a pass catcher. For short term, just for 2022, I am in on Travis Etienne. Now, what's going to be really curious here is what group of wide receivers are going to be available to us. We already got one, so I feel good about that. We got Michael Pittman, but what's going to be there in the end of the 5th round, in the 6th round? And this is the tough part when it comes to drafting towards the end or the beginning of the draft, whether it's like the first 2 picks, the first 3 picks, or the last 2-3 picks, because you know you're going to have such a long wait in between selections. And that means that some guys that are dropping might not necessarily make it all the way to you. You might get sniped by a pick or 2, something like that, just bad luck. So sometimes it also means you're going to have to reach on guys. Like, I think Travis Etienne there, he might have lasted like another, 4, 5, 6 picks, but he wouldn't have lasted like 15 more selections, 20 more selections, which is what we would have essentially had to wait if we tried to get him in the 5th round. So being towards the end of a draft, or really in either extreme, it precipitates having to reach on players a little bit. But when you've done your research, when you know what guys are set up for success, I'm okay doing so when the research backs up a high ceiling like it does for Travis Etienne. If James Robinson was there for the entire season, it'd be a different conversation. But again, we will cross that bridge when we get there. Looking at these other selections, curious to see that no, George Kittle has been drafted yet. Kyle Pitts being drafted above George Kittle, I don't like that. I imagine George Kittle will be drafted here shortly. The nice thing to see here is that we don't have too many individuals on auto pick, so this is relatively, accurate in terms of what you might see come draft day. I don't see anything all that crazy. First quarterback, Josh Allen in the middle of the 3rd round in a 12-team league. That's pretty normal. Then Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes in the 4th round. Herbert going ahead of Patrick Mahomes. You're going to see that here and there. A lot of people love what the Chargers are doing, are in love with the shiny, new thing in Justin Herbert. So I get that. Then Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins, DJ Moore, Kyle Pitts. Again, I don't like that Kyle Pitts selection there. I would take George Kittle ahead of Kyle Pitts for sure. Terry McLaurin at the end of the 4th round, tremendous value. I love that selection. I really like the team that Team 1 is putting together. Or, the first four picks I really liked. The last pick, DK Metcalf, I disagree with that. Without Russell Wilson there, I want zero to do with that receiving court. I don't care how talented you are. I think it's just a bad situation. Like Drew Lock couldn't get Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton going. What makes you think he's going to get DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett going? So no, thank you there. And I'm wincing a little bit on the inside because I saw a lot of the players that I was crossing my fingers, hoping that they might fall to us, be selected here with these last two picks in Mike Williams and George Kittle. I would have loved Mike Williams as my number 2 wide receiver. I think he's tremendously undervalued. George Kittle, if I had gotten him in the 5th round as my starting tight end, that would have been absolutely amazing. But it's back to us. Let's see what running backs are available. Nothing here that I love. In terms of wide receivers, I think that's where we have to look. And guys that I mentioned before that I would have considered, Allen Robinson is still available, so I'm not really going to waste all too much time. I love Allen Robinson in LA with Matthew Stafford opposite Cooper Kupp, I should say. Cortland Sutton got in my head because he was the last selection here. I think he's going to be like Robert Woods 2.0, even better, Allen Robinson. But we're back on the clock here, and the question is, do we go another wide receiver? Do we go with a potential quarterback? I'm interested to see what these quarterbacks go, but I'm just going to add depth at wide receiver since we did wait a little bit to address the position. I'm going to go with Marquise Brown. DeAndre Hopkins suspended, so Marquise Brown is going to be a guy that gets a lot of volume. I like that pick for us there. And as you can see, Kyler Murray did go pretty much like 3 picks afterwards. It was Joe Burrow, Dalton Schultz, and Kyler Murray. I got a little bit aggressive with Marquise Brown. Again, Kyler Murray would have been great to land him, but at the end of the day, I feel, really confident about what we can do at the quarterback position in the later rounds. It's a position where, again, value can be had later on. And here we just got really awesome depth. I mean, after going running back in 3 of the first 4 rounds, the fact that we have our wide receivers, Michael Pittman, Allen Robinson, and Marquise Brown, all guys that I think can be wide receiver 1s, starting wide receivers, and we have the luxury of Marquise Brown being on our bench, I think is absolutely awesome. So I'll take that all day, every day, even though we had to pass up on Kyler Murray in the process. There goes TJ Hawkinson. That's all right. We already had DeAndre Swift. I think one of those pass catchers in Detroit is in for kind of disappointing season. And I think he could be very well TJ Hawkinson. So for that reason, I'm kind of fading him this year. Definitely not as high on him in 2022 as I was in 2021. There goes Matthew Stafford, another quarterback that I would have liked to have made it to us. That's not the case. Let's look at the quarterbacks that are left available. So right now, if things continue to go this way, guys that I'd be looking at for like high upside, Rashad Bateman, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts. So Matthew Stafford is off the board. In quarterbacks that leaves for us, like Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, there go like literally all the players that we just mentioned. Let's quickly look at that. Yeah, so Dallas Goedert and Jalen Hurts. Rashad Bateman is still there. At tight end, the top tight ends are gone. Quarterback, like at this point, I can continue to wait. I'm going to get Rashad Bateman. And this is like in terms of mid-range wide receivers that I absolutely love with breakout potential. This is like my favorite draft that I've done where I've been able to literally land all of them. So I love that for us here. The draft results, most people have quarterbacks. There's 1 or 2 that still don't. Let's see if, there's a couple of guys that we can land that are just studs that have really good value. I guess we can go with Tom Brady. He's a rather safe option, and then get a high end, like a Trey Lance type later on, or a Derek Carr afterwards with some nice breakout potential. We could have gone Dak Prescott. We could have gone Russell Wilson. I just think Tom Brady at the end of the day is going to be a little bit more consistent, but we'll see. I have zero problem getting another, quarterback or a tight end with our last 2 picks. And that's probably what's going to happen here because we've officially gotten to the point where defenses are being selected. And, this exercise is kind of going to become a little bit useless when we get to kickers and defenses. And we do have the core of our roster already kind of taken care of. So I like where we're at right now at tight end. Probably next, if he's there for us, I'm going to go with Zach Ertz. Yes, I've already got Marquise Brown, but I think Ertz, while DeAndre Hopkins is suspended, could be a really nice play in PPR formats. I also do like Cole Kmet, but I do have him lower than Zach Ertz. So we're going to go with Ertz. And then at quarterback, we could go with a backup like I said before, Trey Lance or Derek Carr. I'm going to pull the trigger on one of those guys in the 9th round to be a backup for Tom Brady if he, for some reason, kind of struggles. So right now, just breaking down our roster again, Brady, Michael Pittman, Allen Robinson. I love what we did at other wide receiver considering how we started. Running back, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, Travis Etienne. Like, even if DeAndre Swift struggles, we've got Etienne as a backup. I think Aaron Jones is a lock to be a top 10 running back. Tight end, yes, we waited on that. You can make the argument that instead of going a Marquise Brown, we could have gone a Dalton Schultz or something like that, or a Kyler Murray at the quarterback position. Yes, if I had known that Rashad Bateman would make it back to us in the 7th round, I would have done that. I think that's the only thing that I can nitpick at that point in time. But otherwise, I think for the majority of this thing, our selections have been really, really good. So I like the way this turned out. Let's go add a high-end quarterback here. I'm going to add that guy that I mentioned before in probably, let's go with Trey Lance, kind of to mix it up a little bit. You guys know how I feel about Derek Carr. I absolutely love him this season, but there he goes right there, one pick after Trey Lance. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd be drafting him a lot earlier, but we went with Tom Brady beforehand. Here, we got to go tight end. I'm going to go with Zach Ertz, like I said before, and that's kind of pretty much wrap this thing up. I'll queue up Cole Kmet as my next guy to draft. But other than that, look, I think this is a very solid roster. I think it's a B-plus type of roster. If we had gone Kyler Murray instead of Marquise Brown, I think you could even make an argument for like an A- type of thing. But I think we just got very lucky with our wide receivers and how it broke for us, and with the way the rankings are here on Yahoo at this point in time. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? What do you think about this team, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. And again, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide, now available for purchase. Details in the description. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.